There we go. All right, welcome into another Future Sox video interview. Joining me via Zoom, it's Scott Merkin. Scott, we've done quite a few interviews, but as always, man, thanks for taking your time today.
Yeah, no problem. I'm not going to turn it, but I turn the computer a little bit, you can see the laundry piled up behind me that I have before I leave for Arizona on Sunday. But yeah, it's an interesting time, but it's good to have baseball back and starting at the beginning of the season and hopefully going all the way through without a hitch.
Arizona is obviously it's nice, much nicer weather than here, but I mean, it's going to look a little different, obviously, when you get out there.
But yeah, I think although as is typical, I think when I leave, I think it's supposed to get a little nicer here next week. So that's a good sign for
Chicago. Get to the 30s.
Into the 30s and 40s. There you hey.
It was like summer.
It was 2 last Friday, right? So beggars can't be choosers, right? As we know from living here.
That is very true. Let's get right into it. Michael Kobach and Andrew Vaughn, the two biggest prospect names in terms of what everybody wants to know right now. And I guess, hearing what Rick Hahn said the other day about the timetable for Kobach, how they're going to use him, and then same thing with Vaughn. We'll start with Andrew Vaughn. I've spoken with him before. Obviously, saw him in Schaumburg, saw him in the inter squad games and all that other stuff. What are your initial thoughts on Andrew Vaughn? We're going to keep it simple here today, but what are your initial thoughts on Vaughn, and if you think he's ready or not to?
I'm sorry, man. I had a chance to talk to him today as well, and he's, extremely confident kid, and not in a cocky way, but just in believing in his abilities. And he really does when you talk to him. It's kind of like when you talk to, obviously so much different. Frank Thomas is a Hall of Famer, 500 home runs. Jose Abreu is an MVP, 7 great seasons with the White Sox. But you get that same feeling. Certain times you hit upon guys who you're like, they just know baseball. They get it. They understand the inner workings of it. And one of the key things about those guys who I mentioned, Abreu and Thomas, is for the most part, when they're good or when they're bad, they're doing the same thing. They're following the same work plan. You've seen that with Giolito on the pitching side, that since 18, he's got a much better plan now that he's talked about from start to start, and that's helped him. And he said, whether he gives up, 3 home runs in that one game against the Twins, or gets knocked around as he did a couple times by the Cubs, or throws a no-hitter or throws a 13 strikeout shutout, he's back day one doing the same thing he did the last start, And Vaughn has that approach. You get the impression that when they talk about his advanced mindset, his advanced approach, that he's got a plan and he's going to stay with that, whether he's the DH on opening day in Anaheim or whether he's playing for Charlotte to start the year, that he knows what he's going to do. And it's hard for me to say that he's a great hitter or going to be this or going to be that, because we've only seen him play in Cactus League games and Schaumburg in terms of like advanced competition. Otherwise, I'm blanking on the league right now. Carolina League. Good Lord.
Salem, yeah.
Salem. That's his highest level of competition. So for anyone to say this guy is going to be lights out is a little premature, but I think he's got all the makings to be a really good player, even if he jumps from Winston-Salem to the major leagues without a minor league season last year. And to throw one more thing in is, as Rick Hahn said, if there was a full minor league season last year, then, he probably would have been, there'd probably be no doubts about him breaking camp. But that's also a great hypothetical. That's like saying if I were 5 inches taller, I'd be 6 and I'm not. So that's too bad, But I would think there's a lot of confidence in Andrew Vaughn. And final thing, not to make this long answer even longer, he'll be the man on the team. He's going to be one of 9 guys who can contribute on that team. So he's not coming up like when Abreu came in. Abreu was the guy when he started, even though he had never been to this country and never been in Major League Baseball. Vaughn is going to be eased in and, have a chance to learn.
That's kind of what I was talking with Chuck Garfien a couple weeks ago, and that's one of the big things we were talking about.
I'm sorry to hear that. Did you lose the bet on that one? No,
it was rough. It was rough.
Chuck's the best. Another HF guy. Got applause more guys.
And the biggest thing we were talking about is that, he doesn't need to hit 3rd or 4th in the lineup. Like, he can be 8 or 9, and that's
would you agree that if he starts DH opening day and he plays the whole year, if he gives you like 270, 15, and 60, that's great from him, right? You don't need, anything above that is golden, right? Because you're counting on Abreu and Robert and Moncada and Jimenez and all these guys, so.
That's exactly right. Yeah. They don't need him to be a superstar. They don't need him to be Ronald Acuna right out of the gate. Yeah. The other guy, Michael Kobach, obviously a guy that he's had quite a career, and he's not even pitched that much, obviously.
Right, four games. Yeah.
Yeah. He's had enough other stuff for a lifetime, but it's good to see him back throwing and healthy and all that other good stuff. And that's another guy. Like now that they have Keuchel and they've got Lance Lynn, and now hopefully Dylan will continue to improve. And, Lopez and Rodon and all these other guys, they don't need Michael Kopech. I know the plan is to start him in the bullpen and all that stuff, but I mean, it's not like they need to rush him to be their number 2 or 3 starter. So that can do nothing but help.
Michael Kopech is going to be someday the trivia answer to kind of a sad period for everyone, in that he was the last Cactus League starter for the White Sox before the pandemic shut everything down. He started on that Tuesday, had a great, I think, 11 pitch first inning, scoreless inning. I think he threw 4 pitches over 100 or above. And then they got rained out that Wednesday. Thursday, they had an off day, and then everything was shut down on that Friday, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm interested to talk to him. He's going to be talking to the media at some point in the next couple of days when we tape this. And, he's a great, as you probably know from talking to him, he's great with the media. Very thoughtful kid, really goes deep behind just kind of the surface answer, and something we appreciate. But it's who he is. He's a genuine kid. He really kind of seems to be looking for meanings in life, not just how to be better in baseball, which is great. But yeah, I think one thing to consider this year, which Rick Hahn kind of made clear the other day, is that what happens this year or maybe even next year doesn't necessarily dictate what's going to be long-term for any of these guys. The Sox hired Tony La Russa as manager to win 2021, 2022, 2023. I mean, they'd like to win beyond that, and I don't know if Tony would stay past that, but that's what they're looking at. They didn't hire him for another incremental jump from a 35-25 season, first round exit in the playoffs last year. They want to win a World Series title. So they're going to do, obviously, what's best for the individuals, Michael Kopech, Garrett Crochet, Andrew Vaughn, but they're also going to do what's best for the team to help them win a World Series title this year. So maybe that's using Crochet and Kopech, who we're talking about, as an opener at some point. Maybe that's using them as what I kind of developed as like the finisher. Now, granted, you paid a lot of money to Liam Hendricks as your closer, but there are some games where maybe you have Crochet or Kopech go the last 3 or 4 innings, and that stretches them out a little bit, and it may just, give the opposing hitters a real tough challenge to, kind of finish off a game. So, there's a lot of options there for both those guys, but Kopech's a dynamic presence. Again, you saw a little bit of what he had in those 4 starts against Detroit. Really, I'm sorry, 4 starts, I think 2 were against Detroit. 3 overall, and then he was hurt in that last one where he got hit pretty hard, or the seeds of the injury had already started there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see him come back, and after he elected not to play last year, and see what he can do in a full season situation. And I think a lot of people, including myself, thought he would probably start in the minors, but from what Rick said the other day, and granted, we're 3 days into camp right now. Things can change a lot by next week, let alone by the end of spring. But it sounds like, he's a good chance to break camp with the team and be part of the Sox in some way. You have 3 set starters, Giolito, Keuchel, Lance Lynn, probably 4 in Dylan Cease, I think you could say. And then you have a bunch of guys who can contribute probably in that 5th starter spot. Rodon, Ronaldo Lopez, Crochet, and Kopech. And I'm just saying for now at the start of the season, we have other guys like Lambert and Stever can, work in at some point. But so you have a lot of good ways to mix things up in there going into the season.
This is a much better conversation than we've had at the beginning of years and prior in years.
Not since about 2012, but even 2012, people didn't know if they would be as good as they ended up being for most of that season.
Yeah, it's just
16, nice. I guess, right? 16 was when they had, or was it 15 when they added when they added Samardzija, Robertson, 15, right? Yeah.
That was.
But a different animal now. A little more depth and a little more elite talent at the big league level too.
A couple of things I wanted to ask you about prospect-wise. I know he's not a prospect anymore, but it's Zach Collins. Obviously, with losing James McCann, it's they obviously signed Lucroy, so who knows what's gonna turn out with that. But as far as Zach Collins goes, have you spoken to him lately? And do you think he would be able to handle being that backup catcher and taking over where McCann left off?
I've not spoken to Zach in the offseason, actually. And Zach, I've had real good talks in the past with Zach. Zach's another guy who's very aware of what's going on. Like, remember in spring training last year, he was kind of honest and said, like, yeah, it looks like I'm going to start the season in Charlotte, because he knew that, it was going to be Grandal and McCann as the catchers. I'll add this to the equation. I think, we talked to LaCroix when they had the non-roster invites released, and he was one of the more prominent names on there of non-organization guys. And he said that, his connection was through Jerry Naron, who's the catching coach, catching coordinator. And he got in touch through Tony La Russa And Nairn told LaCroix that, Tony really likes veteran guys. So to me, that means Jonathan LaCroix is going to be the backup catcher on this team. He's going to be behind Yasmani Grandal. And, whether LaCroix comes in and whenever he plays hits 290 or hits 205, the biggest thing for him is just handling pitchers, just bonding with the pitchers, calling good games, getting the pitchers to, 1 through 9 there. But I don't think that necessarily precludes Zach Collins from making the team on opening day either. I think even if you have Vaughn as the opening day DH, then your bench is what? LaCroix, Engel, Leroy Garcia, and then probably depending on what you want, either Zach Collins or Danny Mendick, I would guess. Maybe there's a guy from a non-roster guy that may, jump up and do something for the team. But I think it's, that's pretty much the basis right there. It's funny because they have, for the most part, every spot on this team is almost set. There's a bullpen decision or two to make, but really not if Kobach is ready to go, right? If Kopech's ready to go, then you got it. And then, I think it's down to like maybe the last roster spot. But, Collins, I think everyone is just waiting for a chance for him to pitch. I'm sorry, wrong guy, to hit regularly. He struggled some his first time up. He went down, made some changes, looked better in his second stint, and I think they're just waiting for him to get a chance where he can play 250, even 250, 300 plate appearances to see what he can really do.
Last thing, I'll let you run.
Great on base guy, obviously.
Yeah, good eye, good play discipline, and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
That you need.
And has worked hard on developing his catching too. Really has put in a lot of work.
I know that's one thing that you want to
with McCann last year too.
It's one of the things he's taken pride in is working on his defense. So.
Oh yes.
Last thing, two names that we've been talking about: Blake, Mike Rodolfo, and Luis Gonzalez, and all these outfielders. Luis Pasaba, who's now no longer in the organization.
Right.
But
Blake Rutherford, right?
And Blake. In Adolfo, still for my money, out of all those guys, if he wasn't hurt, I think he would have been knocking on the door right now. But he did, so that's he's got some work to do. But anyways, two names I wanted to ask you about real quick: Gilbert Sanchez and then Cespedes. What do you think in terms of a timetable? How far off are they from contributing?
Yeah, I'm not sure on Sanchez. You hear different things about him. I think his defense is pretty much there. I just don't know if his offense is going to be enough to even, to get him to the next level. That remains to be seen. He's got time there. And I think Cespedes, he's not going to break camp with the team. He is going to be there as of Monday as part of the mini camp. Chris Getz told me that a while ago so you probably will see him from time to time in a Cactus League game. Although, with the option to play 5 or 7 inning games early on in the Cactus League games, there may not be as many chances for the guys to come in and fill in when they
innings,
6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. But yeah, I've heard good things about Cespedes, but I think it's and he's a pretty polished player, but I still think it's early in his development, so you got to let him play a little bit and see what he turns out. I agree with you on Adolfo. I think Adolfo not only would have been the right fielder, but I think the fan base would have loved that, and still will. He's awesome. Not my age, so he's no one's my age, so he's gonna. He's got a chance definitely to still be the guy, and he's got that personality that fits in Chicago. And don't forget Gavin Sheets, who we were talking about before this started. Gavin Sheets, was very refreshing. Excuse me, his honesty about that. He was disappointed that he wasn't added to the Schaumburg alternate training site last year, and he went after it. He didn't let the disappointment sit for too long. He went after it, and not only did he get better, he lost 15 pounds and got himself more athletic. As I talked to his dad about that too, but he started to learn another position. He's now right field, first base, and maybe he ends up being the right fielder of the future. This is a 2nd round pick in 17 behind Jake Berger, so it's not a guy who's coming out as like a 27th round pick who's surprising people. This guy's got the pedigree out of Wake Forest, so let's see what he can do too. They're I know a lot of people wanted George Springer, and I understand that, or anyone else, Michael Brantley. Right. You have Adam Eaton right now. Adam Engel was a good combination out there. But in terms of future guys, I think you have some options there that maybe people are sleeping on a little bit right now. But again, we just got to see how it develops. You can't.
Yeah, we got a long way to go here. We got another, 7 weeks? No, 6. I don't know, 6.5 weeks, whatever it is, until games start. Right. Who knows what's going to happen? And then we got a full season. Then you mentioned a guy that, was upset he didn't get called to Schaumburg. Another guy to keep your eye on is Cade McClure, he'll be out there as well. Another guy who's got, if he wouldn't have gotten hurt in Kannapolis in 2018, I still think another guy that would have been much further along.
Absolutely. I think there's a decent chance if things continue to progress that Cade McClure, because there's always, who would have thought Jonathan Stever would have made a couple steps last year, even
out of nowhere,
short season. So I think if things progress, they're going to need more pitchers than they have, breaking with opening day. I think McClure could be one of those guys who helps out this year for sure.
All right, Scott, thank you very much for your time. Have a safe trip out to Arizona, and we'll talk soon. All right.
All right. Good luck to your Boilermakers, as long as they're not facing my Wolverines on the hardwood there.
Listen, you guys finish your schedule and play all the games, and then you can be champs. How's that?
Hey, it wasn't their fault. We know
I know.
It's a very trying time for all society.
But Juwan Howard's done an amazing job.
He has done a great job.
All right. Talk to you later. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, Clinton.
Scott Merkin, MLB.com, White Sox reporter here on the Future Sox podcast.